pouvoir plus muser de certaines mêmes questions en fait.
Ouais, puis il n'y a pas une limite de nombre de personnes qui peuvent travailler sur un challenge.
Bah après, il faut que ça soit efficace.
Le truc, c'est qu'on disait entre 5 et 10. Au plus de 10, on diminue un peu. Enfin, on essaie de séparer les groupes parce que ça va
trop de chefs dans le cuisine.
C'est exact. Mais écoute,
Ah, c'est pour ça, mais oui, bien sûr, chacun. Ouais, c'est plutôt ça. Ouais, on s'est vu à PR.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, how are you? Good, thanks. How are you?
I am fine.
Nice to see you again.
There is the person we need to be careful. You know the journalist?
ah yes.
So he comes to all of our conferences at the university.
That's what they say at the university library afterwards. So
We've started a chair for studying this particular phenomena,
Okay.
and we call it forest studies. Yes.
I see.
Il est retour. Je lui ai fait un livre plusieurs fois.
Quand on a fait le pre-event, il était là aussi.
Oh my God, I thought I would get away from him coming to the museum and away from the university. But
Okay.
he's here. There's no escaping him.
No questions.
Just pretend you don't
Does he,
hear it.
Oh no, you can't be overseas.
does he speak English?
Ooh, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes. In fact, well, let's say that he does try. And yes.
Should tell them.
to our partners which made this event possible. Thank you so much for your donation or for your help. And I'm gonna hand over right now to Beat Estermann. Beat will talk to you first. Yeah, good morning everybody. Welcome to this 9th edition of the GLAMhack. I would really invite you on behalf of the Opendata.ch association to this event, and I'm really excited to be here this year in Geneva. We're extremely grateful to our host institution, the Musée d'Ethnographie, to Florian, who made this possible as the project manager on the museum side, to the director, Karine Durand, who has supported us along the entire process, and the entire team, of course, at the MEG. Working with ethnographic collections, which are oftentimes linked to a colonial past, helps us as an association to put the focus not only on the FAIR principles in data governance, with the call for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data, which have been the classical demands of the open data movement. But working with those collections will kind of push us to open up our perspective to further ethical considerations, articulated in form of the CARE principles: collective benefit, authority to control, responsibility, and ethics. They shift our focus to the power structures in which our collective memory and our heritage collections are embedded. They stress the importance of empowering the people concerned to take an active part in the discourse about these collections and the history they represent. And they also underline the importance of working towards a more equitable structures of control when it comes to describing these collections, to managing these collections, and also in shaping the discourse surrounding them. I believe that the CARE principles are also a clear call for a pluralist approach to the description of heritage collections, which should be protected to the extent possible from hegemonic influences. And I also believe that the digital transformation opens up new perspectives in this area, that it has a lot in store to have this pluralist approach, to connect with people elsewhere on other continents and invite them to participate in shaping the discourse around these collections. While the CARE principles have originally been put forward by the Global Indigenous Data Alliance, I believe that they're also an excellent source of inspiration for data management in other areas that are kind of concerned also with power structures and power inequalities, well beyond the classical topic of colonialism or decolonization. In this spirit, I invite you to engage in this hackathon, keeping up our tradition of a participatory, co-creative event facilitating collaboration at eye level between a variety of stakeholders. I'm happy that you're all here, and welcome to this hackathon.
Thank you so much, Beat, and it's my turn now, on behalf of MEG, to warmly welcome you to our museum for this latest edition of GLAMhack. I'm thrilled that this big day has finally arrived after many months of discussions and work with our great partners in the Swiss Open GLAM Working Group. I'm going to use my 5 minutes. I don't know if we have the slide, or I think so. Yeah. Oops, sorry. To tell you a story But first of all, I'd like to sincerely thank my director, Karine Durand, for supporting us, and all my colleagues at MEG who have worked very hard in all areas of the museum to make this exceptional event possible and prepare the metadata for liberation. It's pretty wild for us, you know. And thank you to Marina, the GLAMhack superwoman. I have to say that. You will applaud them afterwards, but yeah. I'm working at MEG for the past 13 years. And to define this museum, I would say that it is not scared to take risks and stepping out from its comfort zone. The decolonial ethical approach has been driving us all for a long time now to be more and more respectful towards the cultural heritage under our responsibility and towards the cultural owners. But it was by a devious route, not so devious actually, that the GLAMhack settled at MEG in 2023. And it all began on January 22, 2020, when I received an email from a certain Jonas Lederman, he's here, also production director of the show Yagbon's Mirror. Jonas and the company Onirican, the artist Sanson Ogiamien, and I, we worked together to get the MEG to host this poetic show dedicated to sacred objects inert behind museum windows, expatriated, disconnected from their cultural owners. Our museum team was shaken. Our audiences were overwhelmed by the power of this performance and its message. Jonas was quick to say to me, "It would be great to do a GLAMhack here. Soon we'll be dealing with colonial collections." And so the idea germinated, even though it took me 3 years to understand what GLAMhack really meant and what you guys were going to do here for 2 days. So thanks, Jonas. Thanks to your intuition, we're going to be pushed around again, but we are used to it. So thank you so much.
I'd like now to invite on stage Brenda Lynn Edgar, the Chief Curator of MEG and Head of Collections Unit.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Hello, welcome. I join Florian and Beat in welcoming you to this year's GLAMhack. I'm the new head curator here at the MEG, and I'm very honored to be able to speak at this occasion. And I'd just like to congratulate the team at the MEG who organized the GLAMhack, and also welcome you all here today. So when I joined the MEG in March, the project for the GLAMhack was well underway. And we were very excited about the prospects it offered for thinking out of the box about our collections and how we care for them. Crowdsourcing would enable us to learn more about our collections and complete missing data and identify artists and techniques, and new combinatory strategies and thematic studies would be possible across different collections. Yet we also came to realize that releasing our metadata into open access also opened up a series of ethical questions, which Beat has mentioned earlier. And I'm going to briefly expose here these ethical questions and talk about the solutions that we found and others that we're working on. So like many cultural institutions, the MEG is confronted with the conflicting agenda of open access and the protection of image and intellectual property rights. But additionally, and more importantly, as a museum of ethnography, giving open access to our collections could also be contradictory to our decolonial agenda, which might seem all the more paradoxical given that this year's theme is colonial collections and provenance research. But the great majority of the objects in MEG's collection represent the traditional knowledge and cultural expressions of indigenous peoples. Indigenous peoples have been protesting for years now the unauthorized exploitation and misuse of these knowledges and expressions. Open data policies exasperate these tensions. The very problem for indigenous peoples is that common property law considers their traditional knowledge and cultural expressions as belonging to the public domain. But according to the 2007 United Nations Declarations of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, free, prior, and informed consent is needed for the use of traditional knowledge. And indigenous peoples have the right to determine if and how elements of their intangible cultural heritage may be studied, reused, and represented by museums. So how does an ethnography museum seeking to decolonize its collections and avoid violating indigenous intellectual property rights justify releasing even more intellectual property into the public domain? So our collections also contain human remains for which permission to expose them has been refused or not yet obtained. There are also sacred and restricted use objects which are not meant to be exposed, let alone freely accessed on the internet. Images of such objects have in fact been removed from our online catalog. Then there are also the photographic collections, which pose additional ethical problems, such as individuals or groups photographed without their permission, or even under duress or coercive force. Our collections also include objects obtained according to legal standards of colonial governments, or objects acquired through asymmetrical economic negotiations between colonizer and colonized, or acquired in the context of armed conflicts. So which images and which data can we publish without further contributing to the injustice and violence that all too often in the past allowed the constitution of ethnographic collections? Moreover, much of the data that exists on the objects in our collection is biased or incomplete. Releasing it into open access could potentially fuel existing misunderstandings and tensions between ethnography museums and indigenous peoples. The question of scale is also an issue. Meg's collections contain some 80,000 objects. And while we can retain images we know to be sensitive, verifying the nature of all the other objects is a monumental task, as is that of verifying the nature of all the others and verifying and correcting the data recorded on them. At the same time, it would be a shame to withhold our data. We would be passing up a valuable opportunity to correct it and complete it through collaborative exchanges and crowdsourcing. And if the Meg didn't release its data, we wouldn't be able to participate in the hackathon we are hosting. So we aim to find a way to release our data in a way which would reinforce indigenous rights and make amends for colonial violence somehow. So for starters, we published a series of texts explaining our decolonial policies and actions, as well as content warnings. And these texts are available on our open data pages, and we invite you to read them in detail. Also, the Meg is currently in the process of adhering to local contexts, an association based in North America, which hosts a hub that facilitates collaborations between indigenous peoples and cultural institutions and museums that adhere to the hub. For museums and institutions, local context provides a series of recognizable coded labels that can be incorporated into catalog notices. You see some here on the screen. And these labels indicate importantly that the knowledge about the object is incomplete, that the institution is open to collaboration with indigenous groups, with source communities or individuals and people concerned, and that an object is issued from traditional knowledge. Indigenous groups who adhere to the hub entirely free of charge can then cross-access all the catalogs on the hub and exchange with the institutions holding them, either to propose other labels, such as TK clan, for instance, attribution. There are also, you see here some labels that are specific to the use of objects, like traditional knowledge related to men or women, or on the bottom you have also secret and sacred traditional knowledge, which is not to be exposed or freely exploited. And obviously, this also enables people concerned to demand an object's restitution or removal from an online catalog. So local context is not a miracle solution. Most indigenous groups adhering are in North America for the moment, but it's growing. And however, it is a step in the right direction, which is a step towards source communities and indigenous peoples. It's reaching out to them and sending them a message that as museums, we are accountable for our collections, past, present, and future. And we are not only open, but that we are actively seeking to engage with them and reshape museum practices together. And we are very excited to see what kind of great ideas come out of this hackathon to enable us to do that. Thanks very much.
To continue on MEG's data, I'd like to invite Grégoire de Sedank, the IT manager of MEG, on stage.
Merci. Hello. Yes, I am Grégoire, in charge of digital here at MEG. I present you the open metadata of MEG's collections, but I will do it in French, excuse me. I think it will be easy for you to follow me because I put online a web page with all you should know. Basically, we have 3 collections, objects, photographics, and audio archives. Well, I switch, OK? Chaque collection est présentée avec un fichier zip, et à l'intérieur de ce fichier zip, vous trouvez des tables de métadonnées. Ces tables de métadonnées sont fournies sous forme de fichiers texte, séparés par des tabulations, ou encore dans un format SQL natif. Vous trouverez également dans ce fichier zip toutes les explications qui permettent de relier les tables de métadonnées les unes avec les autres. Pour prendre l'exemple de la table objet, la base de données objet, vous avez en fait 3 tables de données. La principale est celle qui est au centre, la table objet, qui présente ici tous les champs descriptifs qui permettent de caractériser un objet ethnographique. Et cette table objet est reliée à 2 autres. Une pas très intéressante, la table volume, qui précise les dimensions de l'objet, peu importe. Ce qui est intéressant, c'est surtout la table à droite. Bon, je ne vois pas. Bref, la table à droite qui fait le lien avec les registres d'inventaire historique. Donc, j'y reviens tout de suite parce que, plus loin dans la page, vous trouverez ici l'ensemble des registres d'inventaire historique que nous avons numérisés. Donc, ils sont de 7 natures. Il y a le registre K, L, le registre manuscrit, etc., de 7 types donc. Et ces registres s'inscrivent sur une échelle chronologique de la façon suivante. Donc vous avez de 1867 à 1901 un premier registre qu'on appelle le registre K, le registre L, suit le registre d'inventaire manuscrit, qui est donc le premier registre du musée qui vient d'ouvrir en 1901. Bien plus tard, il se trouve que les registres K, L et le registre d'inventaire manuscrit vont faire l'objet d'une copie dactylographiée. On la voit ici en bas. Ce registre copie dactylographiée a lui aussi été numérisé, etc. Et ce qui est intéressant, c'est que tous ces registres d'inventaire historique ont été indexés aux objets. Cela signifie que chaque objet est connecté avec le ou les registres qui le concernent directement. Si on se sert de notre propre moteur de recherche, qui doit être par ici, voilà. OK. Donc là, je recherche un objet. C'est pas un clavier roman, ça. Voilà l'objet qui m'intéresse. Donc, on observe déjà que c'est un objet K, donc on s'attend à trouver un lien avec le registre K. Nous présentons ici les métadonnées issues de la table objet. Ce sont les mêmes métadonnées qui sont à votre disposition dans le fichier zip. Et puis, on retrouve à la fin de cette page les connexions avec les registres d'inventaire historiques. Ces connexions sont opérées grâce à la table registre dont je vous parlais tout à l'heure. Donc on s'attend à retrouver un lien avec le registre K sur la bonne page. Donc je pense qu'on est ici, voilà, j'avais vu K 1651 avec ici le masque de la tribu, etc. Et je vous parlais du fait que les registres K, L et manuscrits ont été dactylographiés. Donc on retrouve ici la bonne page du registre copie dactylographiée avec notre objet par ici. Remarquez que ce registre-là est numérisé avec une reconnaissance automatique des caractères. Il y a donc une couche OCR associée à cette numérisation et cette couche OCR a été extraite pour être stockée page à page dans le champ couche OCR de la table registre. Voilà. Remarquez aussi au départ que mon objet, dans les métadonnées de la table objet, on parle d'une population qui s'appelle Tlingit, alors que dans les métadonnées de la table registre, on parle d'une population qui s'appelle Ai-Lingit, alors que c'est strictement le même objet. Voilà. Good luck. If you have any technical questions, you should ask me. But if you have historical questions, you should ask Florian Morin. Voilà. Thank you.
As we are a bit late, we'll just make a change in the program, and I would like to invite, for now we have prepared for you the presentation of the new data sets for this edition, but I would like to invite Sami Kenny on stage, because he then has to leave. Yes, please welcome Sami Kenny, the Executive Council member of the City of Geneva, Department of Culture and Digital Transition.
Good morning, everybody. So this long title you just seen a few seconds. I'm basically member of the city government of the city. Oui, j'ai touché le clavier. So we are 5 elected members, and I'm one of the 5 elected, and I'm in charge of culture. And so I'm very happy that you are in the Musée d'Ethnographie, the MEG, and digital transition. It's the first time, as far as I know, in the history of public entities in Switzerland, cities, cantons, and the Swiss Confederation, that a ministry, department has digitalization in its name. But obviously, having it in the name of the department is not sufficient. So it was a very fascinating discussion within the city it sounds, I mean, I know you're all aware, but it's not that obvious for everybody, to get the digital discussion, digitalization in general, out of a technical question to a much wider question, you know, to really develop a digitalization policy. That's what we have done since 2020, approaching all kinds of dimensions of digitalization. The first one is very simple, transforming the city administration. It's not that simple, really, because the biggest issue is not technical but human. How to approach our civil servants in all the diversity of functions and competencies and roles they have, you know, from the people cleaning the streets to the people keeping our gardens, to our people dealing with social issues, with kids, with the museums. Most of them were a bit reluctant, or at least anxious. It has evolved. But even within the city administration, we had like a digital divide, which we are working on it. And the other trap, classical one, was that many units thought that, you just call the IT unit, and they find solutions, very good solutions, new software, and everything will be bright afterwards. Totally underestimating the organizational change, the change management. So now everything is being better, it's not yet ideal, we're working on it. And so any initiative which brings together people to work on this issue is welcome. So I'm very happy on this hackathon hosted by the MEG. The MEG is very proactive in many dimensions. Some of them have been just tackled, like decolonization, where are our collections coming from which communities, in which historical context. But to let you work on this data and to have some kind of common, intelligence, common share of information, of opinion, to make it really open. It's a kind of risk in a way, the MEG is exposing itself, but I'm sure they're willing to do it with you, because putting all these people together like you are, it's, we don't know what will come out. Politicians don't like to initiate process where they don't like what comes. They like to plan in advance the outcomes, but it's very good like this. In a way, the whole process is as important as the results and the outcomes. It's part of the story. So really thank you to give this time to this project. Hackathons are really a way to brainstorm in a more structured and productive way. So when talking about data, nowadays we don't even really know all the data files of our own city. Most data files are like traditional Excel files, list of names, very basic. So just in the process of even just having a, inventory. And then we just adopted a data policy. We didn't really invent something revolutionary. We have been inspired by other cities because most cities are working on that. As you know, cities are not establishing laws. Legislation is mostly national, international possibly, cantonal, regional, but not local. But we have a huge responsibility in not only managing our data in a proper way, but also maybe to contribute to the debate about how you manage data. So the data policy is both bringing rules about to protect privacy wherever you have to protect privacy, which is also an issue about security. A city like Geneva is being attacked every day, thousands of times by hackers. We resist as well as we can. I touch wood, until now it worked, but you know that it's, depending who is attacking you, it's dangerous. On the other hand, we have to put on open data everything which can be put on open data. But it's easy to say it, it's not easy to do it, also for technical reasons, because the data has to be made available in a structured way, ensuring obviously that the one data which is not supposed to be public remains confidential. So we're really happy about learning about it every day. We still have to learn. And another dimension is the fact that for a long time, the digitalization world and the cultural world have not been enough connected. You know, when you talk about digital issues, you think about technical issues, about economical issues, and so on, but not necessarily about the artistic. And from my experience as a cultural minister in a way of the city, artists are fantastic in creating things, creating ideas, creating objects, creating performances, and mostly in a provocative way, interesting way. So we are increasingly taking initiative with the artists to do also artistical kind of innovation on data, and you can be very surprised how they handle it. So we are also focusing on many initiatives relating artists with data issues. So I would like to thank you again for coming here. I'm looking forward to whatever comes out from, even if I'm a politician, so I'm curious. And I thank you very much, the MEG, for hosting the event, organizing it, and all of you for taking part as actively and openly as possible. And tackling the decolonization issue, I just said to my neighbor, Brenda Gerlin, I just want to add this thing. The MEG has been very, very proactive in the last years to tackle what we call decolonization issues. So we're even giving back, some objects in certain conditions. We're opening our books about the history of the collections. It creates interesting discussion with the original communities. And obviously the data dimension, I must admit, I didn't realize this aspect of the discussion So again, I'm very proud of the MEG being at the forefront of the present debate. Thank you very much.
We'll now go back in our program, and I invite Lionel on stage.
Yeah, hello everybody, my name is Lionel Walter. I am a member of the Open GLAM working group of the Open Data Association. And all year long we talk with a lot of institutions to convince them to put data open, to put data as open as possible, because we believe it's very important for the whole society. And actually for this hackathon, we are very happy to have many institutions who provided data. And like the people, the creator will just like put in the data set they for the hackathon. And first I would like to welcome Xavier Siana from Archives de la Ville de Genève.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Xavier Siana. I'm an archivist at the Geneva City Archives. The dataset I will be talking to you today is linked to the MEG and to the archives of the MEG. The archival font, the documents of the MEG, of the archive, is an extremely rich font. It's crucial for doing research about objects and collection of the MEG. So what I will be talking about today, the dataset we are offering, is about letters. The letters that are being sent, that have been sent from the MEG or to the MEG. It's quite a big mass of letters from the founding of the museum in 1901 to 1952. So these are first half of the 20th century letters. So the whole data set, the letters are, there are 30,000 letters, okay, right? So unfortunately, those letters can't be put into public domain. They are not open data because of copyright issues. So we are not able to provide the digital copies of the letters. The data set we are offering is basically a big list of those letters. So it's a big Excel file with 30,000 lines, right? But just that is extremely rich because you can tell over 50 years who the MEG was in contact with, being government officials, other museums, art vendors, object vendors, right? So we have a really big list of names in, about those letters, right? And not just names, but we have countries. So just looking at that data set, you can tell who the MEG was in contact during their 51st years of existence, right? So we have dates, names, and sometimes who the person who sent or received the letter was. As I said, maybe an object merchant, another museum director, etc., etc. So just by analyzing this, a lot can be done already, even if we can't have the letters and or the full text of the letters. Most of those letters are handwritten, so we do not have character recognition for them. Okay, I hope it was clear. If it was not, please feel free to ask me any questions about this data set. Okay, so just a few slides. They are as illustration, right? So as I was saying, a few of those are, mainly those are handwritten. This is a gallery, for example. Or some are really trivial, so some of those letters are really rich. They have a list of objects, and some are typewritten. Okay, but unfortunately, as I said, those are not open data. The part which is open data is the metadata about those letters, right? But it's already a lot, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Xavier. And now we have Eloi Comtes from Centre d'iconographie de la Bibliothèque de Genève.
Hi, I'm very pleased to be here in representing the Bibliothèque de Genève. So it's a small data set, it's a small amount of images that I am proposing here. Normally, we are... You see that it's on the Commons. So 50 images, not a lot, but that are illustrating topics that is of big importance about the colonial past of Geneva. This national exhibition of 1896 was a huge event, like every national exhibition in Switzerland. So you have to imagine at the end of the 19th century, there was 2 million people visiting this exhibition. So when you compare to the population of Switzerland at the time, it's amazing. So it was a huge area here in Plein Palais and also on the across the river. And one big part of this exhibition was a kind of entertainment park that was called the Parc de Plaisance. In this Parc de Plaisance, you could find one of the first cinema. It means that means one of the first building built to show movies. And for instance, you have also something like the Luna Park, water toboggan, this kind of things, but also this village noir, that means what we has been called human zoo. That means people were paying to go to the Parc de Plaisance, but it could also pay a bit more and just to see people from Africa living like villages, and so yeah, that's a kind of, that it's a bit upsetting when you see those things colliding together now. But what the interest of these images is that you can show what visitors would see when they would come here in Geneva in this national exhibition. So that's a bit of the aim to give you these data sets. Is can we imagine a way to show these images just to make people realize what was the intellectual to the world, mental world of Swiss people when they were coming to at the end of the 19th century, when it was okay to just have fun in Luna Park and so have fun to throw money to people in a human zoo. Yeah, that's it. Normally, so there's not a link on this. I'm sorry for that, because I made a small paper on our blog. I can give you just the address, and on this blog there is a bit of bibliography on the topic. Yeah.
We organized the challenge, Yolanda, so you will have all the documentation available.
Yes, thank you very much, Ella. And now we have Annabelle Wiegert from the Central Library of Zurich.
Hello everyone, I'm Annabelle from the Central Library of Zurich, and I will present shortly 2 data sets that we brought from the Central Library of Zurich. So the first data set is called Maps from the collection Magnificent Atlases with title cartouches. And I think there's a link, right? Yeah, you can find it on Open Data Swiss. And And it's, wait a second. I'm confused. There was another link, right? Yeah, very nice. Here you can see one example. It's about 2,000 maps from the collection Magnificent Atlases of Central Library of Zurich. They have all been published on the EURARA platform. So the atlases were printed in Europe, mainly in the Netherlands. And they all date from the 17th century. And they are lavishly illustrated. Some of them are colored by hand. So the maps are richly decorated with human and animal figures, and they offer insights into ideas, power relations, and conflicts of the 16th and 17th century. Yeah, and you can see one example of a maybe stereotypical representation of people, yeah, in the left bottom corner of this map. So the data set consists of an image folder with high-resolution JPEGs, a CSV file with metadata on the map pages, and another CSV file with geodata resulting from a citizen science georeferencing project completed this year by the Central Library of Zurich. The next is up. Okay, the second data set is called Early Modern Travel Literature, and it consists of 173 printed travelogues from the 16th to 19th century. They come from the library of the Naturforschende Gesellschaft in Zürich. They are also published on the EURARA platform, and the travelogues are in German and French language. The travelogues could trigger admiration and amazement, as well as feelings of superiority. The dataset consists of a CSV file with metadata and a JSON file with metadata combined with the OCR text per page. Many authors and contributors in the metadata are identified by GND IDs, as well as relator codes, that is, which relation they have towards the print resource. And that's it for the Central Library dataset.
Thanks a lot. Now we have a data set which comes from the Portal for African Research Collection, which is a gathering of 5 institutions in Basel, which have collections about Africa. That's the University Library of Basel, the Basler Afrika Bibliographien, Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute, Museum der Kulturen in Basel, and the Mission 21. And together they just released last August a meta catalog with 270,000 objects, pictures, books, documents, and they release all the metadata about these objects in the public domain. What is also interesting, it's also geo-referenced. So it's all the metadata, and for 2,600 images, these images are also in the public domain. What they did, they scanned old travel books and they extract the images. So this is the data you could use. And last but not least, we have the Museum Riedberg in Zurich, where I invite Joris. Voilà.
Hi everyone, I'm Joris from Museum Riedberg, and we brought 2 data sets with us. So the first one is Chinese paintings that, as you can see, range from a big time period. There was a research project 2 years ago, it ended last year, on the provenance of these Chinese paintings. And what is special there is that you have a lot of stamps on these paintings, and it's not only stamps by the artists who made the artworks, the paintings, or the inscriptions, but also of the people who just looked at them, like connoisseurs that were looking at the paintings, put their stamps on the painting and said, I looked at it. Or also people who owned the painting. So we have we have the images, of course, but there's our JSON files for the artworks, for the stamps, and for the provenance data sets. And the second one is the Africa Art Archive that went live this spring, which consists of about 15,000 photographies by Hans Himmelheber, who was a researcher in most of West Africa during the 30s until the 70s. They have been verslagwortet very extensively, and you also have there about 900 data, about 900 objects. And the photos are some